You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Welcome to Monday. My name is Brock.
I'm Dalby. So my girlfriend has all her old video game consoles. And
oh, nice.
This is what we're going to do. We came up with this idea that we were going to take some of the basement living area. We got a TV down there. And we were going to set it up with all like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64, all that stuff.
That's sick.
And have it set up. And then I realized that my TV does not have the old like coax, the old dial-in ports.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was just like, oh my God. It gave me flashbacks of back in the day hooking up like a Nintendo to the TV. And if you bent that little prong, you ruined everything.
Yeah. I remember my dad got one of the big TVs, so there was like a bunch of those little slots at the back, and it would get confusing which ones to plug in, and you'd have to have like me or my sister in the front and be like, it's working. No, it's in black and white. No, it's working now. Like,
it's like when you used to have antennas on your TV. Did you ever have a TV with antennas?
no, I never did.
Oh, God, man. With the parent who'd be watching and you'd be like maneuvering them like, do we have channel 3 yet? It's crazy how like just the difference in like sometimes you'll get annoyed of like, oh, I can't reach the HDMI ports on my TV, but like kids these days will never know what a pain in the ass it was to try and plug a coax cable into the back of your big 800-pound tube TV.
Kids today will never know the struggle of having to blow off your video games before putting them in to get them to work.
That's true. If I ever caught my kids blowing on the discs now, I'd be like, what are you doing?
They don't even have discs now. That was the other thing. You let someone borrow a game once and it was scratched forever.
Oh my God. We have Xbox Game Pass, so you get to download some games for free. And Marcus, my son, was like, oh, Dad, there's this game. I want to play it. I want to try it, blah, 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 blah. I was like, yeah, okay, hit the button. It was a 112 gigabyte download. I'm like, what are we doing here? I need to go get a new hard drive for my video game console now.
That would be like 2 VHS copies of Titanic.
Oh my God. I never watched Titanic on VHS because I refused to switch tapes in the middle.
The struggle was real, dude.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I saw a thing online yesterday, and I thought this would be interesting to talk about because we are both Canadian-born, Canadian-raised, have lived here our whole lives with a few maybe trips over the borders down south, but mostly spend our time in Canada. But there are a significant number of people who, born in Canada, for whatever reason, for work or for any other reason, will move to another country. And there was a question asked on Reddit asking ex-Canadians, I suppose, what they miss the most about living in Canada. And most of the answers kind of revolve around, like, I miss the healthcare system. Like, I miss when I was sick, I could just go see a doctor and I didn't have to worry about whether it was going to bankrupt my family. But also, there's a lot of people who miss Canadian food.
All dressed chips,
Smarties, that sort of, and Nanaimo bars.
Ketchup chips.
Ketchup chips is another big one.
You can't get a real poutine out anywhere. I mean, sometimes if you go to like a Florida or an Arizona where all the snowbirds go, there's someone who maybe like knows what they're doing.
Where there's a Canadian running a chip stand, or at least they serve a lot of Canadians and they've kind of come around, which is crazy because you would think the sort of the magic of a poutine is that it is just fries, gravy, and cheese curds.
They can never figure out the cheese curds elsewhere in Canada.
That's the biggest problem. It's like they've never heard of it before.
I think if I ever left Canada, I think the biggest thing that would bug me, and I know this is going to sound dumb, is not being able to find hockey on TV.
That's the first thing I thought of, too.
Yeah.
Is that when it's hockey night in Canada, that doesn't matter if you're in Des Moines.
Well, even go to the States and try and watch Sports Center in the morning. They show hockey highlights for like 30 seconds. It's like a real quickie. I mean, it's like trying to find porn in China, trying to find hockey on TV sometimes.
They show hockey highlights like our channel showed WNBA highlights. Like, it happened. Let's move on to the next thing.
They probably show more WNBA than they do hockey. Like, go into a bar and ask for a hockey game, they'll look at you like you're crazy, man.
Well, and at least in the States, they have hockey teams. Like, maybe you'll at least be able to, if you're in a town with a team, you can see their games. If you go overseas, good luck. Like, first of all, the time change ruins everything, and second of all, they're just like, we don't watch that here.
Yeah. Steve just texted in and says, you'll never hear the Tragically Hip in the States, and that breaks my heart. Honestly, like, there's a lot of Canadian bands that I probably would miss, and I would miss that little thing of having a bond of, like, over bands like The Hip. or Great Big Sea.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those ones where, like, you can start singing a Great Big Sea song in a room full of people in Canada, and somebody else is going to call out the next line.
Versus if I'm doing that anywhere else, they're like, what are you singing sea shanties for?
Although, if you go over to, like, Denmark or Germany, we hear it all the time from some of these Canadian bands. They're like, oh, we can't sell out in the States, but we sell out massive shows overseas. So maybe if you were moving that way, you could still have some of those moments.
Yeah. I just feel like if you go to someone like, have you ever heard of Great Big Sea? They might be very confused on what you're saying to
If
them.
you ask a European if they've heard of Great Big Sea, they're like, we have many of them. They are all here.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
A lot of people saying the beer, the Caesars, because a Bloody Mary is not a Caesar.
It's not, and it's disgusting.
A lot of people talking about the devil's lettuce as well. I didn't think about that one because would suck for that to be illegal again.
That's right. If you were moving from Canada and you were the person who liked to partake in that specific activity, you would have to choose your state or country that you were moving to very carefully. Otherwise, you're going back to meeting people out of the back of the van.
We did get one person who said bagged milk on the text line, which
First of all, gross.
Which trying to describe bagged milk to someone who has no idea, you would sound insane.
Imagine growing up in Ontario, where bagged milk is not only a thing, it's the thing. You don't bat your eyes at it.
Yeah.
Now you move to, like, Iowa, and all of a sudden you're at the grocery store, you're stopping, excuse me, where's the bagged milk?
Trying to explain that it's like the same thing as your boxed wine. You know how it comes in the bag?
Yeah. Where do you guys keep that? You use the bag as a lunch bag sometimes. Where do you keep that?
Yeah.
People are looking at you like, all right, let's go find you some help.
The only other country I know that does it is Russia, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of Russian bagged milk before.
I don't think you want to have it, bro.
Some people are talking about, and this is sort of the thing that I thought of, is just whether right or wrong, there's sort of a sense of, like, safety in Canada. Like, when you're out and going for a walk, you don't always necessarily look at the people coming the other way like you do in the States.
I don't know about that one,
Well,
brother.
it's more prevalent in Canada. I know that, like, sometimes things are bad and stuff like that.
I think it's like a stereotype that it's safety, but I mean, I think it's the same everywhere in that regards. Like, yeah, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I think, like, when I'm in the States, if I'm walking around, like, the mall and stuff like that, I'm a little bit more aware of everybody who's walking by.
Okay.
Versus if I'm shopping here, like, I'm just shopping. I'm not really paying attention to who's out there with me. You know what it is different, though, is all these things like, oh, if I moved from Canada, I would really miss that. If you could bring something from another country here, what would be something that you would want to, like, bring to Canada?
Oh, like cheaper internet, phone plans would be the biggest one, I think.
It really is crazy how we have, like, 3 pretty massive corporations and still pay more for our phone bills and internet than a lot of other countries.
TV in the States, you're like, they pay like $3 a month for stuff. It's insane.
I'm tired of watching ads for Mint Mobile featuring Ryan Reynolds telling me about the cheap phone I can't have because I'm Canadian.
I wish we took more pride in our college sports. I'm a big NCAA football guy. I mean, it's just sad how they treat CIS sports, or what is it, OUA, I guess, in the province here. Like,
dude, I used to do like the in-stadium announcing for Golden Bears football at the University of Alberta, and some banger football games out there. Awesome football. And then you'd look at the stands and be like, other than parents and, like, people looking for a place to drink on a Friday night, it's pretty sparse out here. And then you look at, like, a Syracuse football game to the south of us, and you're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like.
People go gung-ho for colleges that they never even went to, which I think is amazing. High school sports are bigger than our college sports here.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Also, speaking of things you've seen in commercials, those, like, $5 buffets that you see, I'm aware that it's not good for you, and it's probably not even the best food. But sometimes I want to gorge myself, and I don't want to pay a lot of money, and I wish we could do that here.
Valid, man, valid. I think the biggest thing as a Canadian that I want Alaska, dude. It's right there.
You want to take it back?
Did we ever have it?
I don't know, but I mean, feels like it's on our turf.
It's right there. How is it not ours?
Oh, yeah, because wasn't it? It was like Russia then sold it to the States?
Yeah.
And we've just been the middlemen, the caretaker.
It's like your neighbor building a fence in your property line. It's not fair.
I feel like Alaska is one of those things, though, that, like, we'd be like, we want it back, or we want to take Alaska. And then we'd get it, and we'd be like, Oh, great. Now it's just a fourth territory. Now what do we do with it?
I want it. It's on our land. I want it, man.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
I don't know if there's anyone listening that speaks another language. I have a question, though, or maybe anyone that's traveled. What are some English words that mean something completely different in another language? There's a new, Venom movie coming out with Tom Hardy in a few weeks there.
Oh, yeah. It's the last movie of the trilogy.
And apparently in Sweden, it might be getting an R rating.
Oh.
Because I guess the bad guy in the movie is a character called Knull. It's spelled Knull.
The king of the symbiotes.
You know.
I read all these books when I was young. I know all about Knull.
So the problem is Knull in Swedish is translated to the F-bomb.
No, come on.
So it's getting made fun of pretty hard online out in Sweden right now that basically the main character in this movie is just an F-sharp.
Isn't the movie called The Last Dance, too, or something like
Is that what it is?
I think that's the trilogy name. Oh, that sucks.
And you know what? I know a few years ago we came up with the 3825, an easy way for you to say the F word at work. I mean, you can just start using Knull and pretend you're Swedish.
So I was going to say, no, you can't use it if you have any Swedish staff members.
Yeah.
If your company has Swedish roots, the last thing you want to do is tell the CEO to go null himself.
Yeah, null off, get nulled.
Dude, it's such a powerful character, too. Like, in the books, in the comics.
It's a powerful word, too.
It's one of the biggest villains that exists in that part of the universe. For it to have 3825 as its essentially root name is amazing.
It sucks that there's someone at Marvel that's like, no.
Oh, no, this.
And I know there's so many of these things because, like, English is the weirdest language on our planet.
Well, it's bastardized from all the other languages that we came from,
exactly,
right? It's just smashed together.
Well, I mean, even hell, the F word itself, if you say it with a French accent, is technically, what is it, seal? Is that what it is?
Yep. No, I definitely remember that from when I was in high school and everybody thought they were being clever.
And I don't know if someone was messing with me, but someone once told me that fart means speed in Danish. I'm not 100% if that's true or not.
Depending on which way the wind is blowing, it honestly makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm on board for that comparison.
I was hanging out with my stepbrother's friend, and I don't know if he was trolling us, but he said in commercials they'll have, like, it'll advertise for, like, fart pilot and cars and stuff.
This is one of them 6 fart cars.
I got the need for fart, dude. The Fart and the Furious.
Bud, I've been there before after a taco night. I have been the Fart and the Furious.
That Keanu Reeves movie is completely different.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
We're learning a lot this morning. We were talking about English words that mean something completely different in another language. Apparently, if a German ever offers you a gift, you should turn it down.
Yeah, gift means poison in German, apparently, we learned today. That is terrifying, because I would never, if someone was like, I would like to give you a gift in Germany, I would be like, wow, what a great thing. That's so generous of you.
It's funny because then there's some other people that are saying in Swedish, Danish, Finnish, and Norwegian, gift can either mean poison or married.
Oh.
Which could kind of be the same thing depending on how you look at marriage.
Depending on how many years you've been married, it makes more and more sense.
Yeah. We're celebrating 18 years of poison, you know?
Yeah. There are people who point to the movie Finding Dory, where at the end of the movie it has one of those, like, end, you know, where it comes up and it lets you know that it's the end. But in the Swedish version, it is a word I absolutely cannot say that you would maybe use to describe somebody who engages in a lot of sexual activity. Is the translated word. And it's so funny.
What letter does it start with?
S.
Oh.
It's so funny because it's like, it has this really, like, nice piano and it's a great story and everything's ending, and then that word just kind of wipes across the screen and you're like, oh!
I feel like we're getting a lot of Swedish ones because someone else just texted in that kiss means pee in Swedish. I gotta go take a kiss real quick. That must have been tough when Kiss was touring through there, actually.
Oh, man, Kiss is coming to town, and the wrong type of people are getting real excited about it.
Gonna fill you up with piss.
Kids, did everybody kiss before we go on our road trip?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of bad words. Cut in Dutch is a C sharp, basically.
Oh.
Lull in Dutch means wiener. Siri in Japanese means butt.
But?
Yeah, that's what someone just texted in. So if you say "Hey Siri," you're just like, "Hey booty," like.
Sup, butt?
So if you want a booty call in Japan, you need to do a Siri call. Is that what it is?
You need to ask Siri to call Siri.
Oh, dude, this one's mean. Cookie in Hungarian means a petite gentleman's part.
Oh no. Must be one of them little Keebler cookies.
If you're ever in Hungary, and anyone offers you a cookie, say no, dude. Say no, dude. Also, apparently, this one just came in. If you're in Korea and someone offers you salsa, say no.
Whoa.
That's diarrhea.
No! I mean, if I have enough salsa, I'm going to get there, but that's a whole different argument.
This one says, in Hindu, Randy means sex worker.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess Randy in the UK used to mean like
a
you were
sex
a
term,
little wild, right? So
Yeah.
it's not that far of a leap to get to sex worker eventually.
It's just tough if you lose your boy Randy out there and you're yelling.
Randy!
The cops are coming for you.
Randy!
I'm looking for a guy. Have you seen him?
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
We got a serious hot take on the bad line yesterday. Listen to this.
Stop playing the Foo Fighters. It's honestly sickening that I have to turn on my radio and hear that piece of shit on your radio station. And frankly, it makes me sick. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that feels this way.
Ugh.
So yeah, think about that.
Think about that.
Think about that. Can we stop saying, I know I'm not the only one, when you're trying to, like, hey, you want to make a point, you want to make a hot take, stand by it. Don't put imaginary soldiers behind you.
And I'll say this. I said it last week. I think Dave Grohl deserves all the crap that he's getting.
100%.
And scumbag move, cheating on your wife. But at the same time, there are rock stars who have done way worse things than him. I mean, name a band that hasn't done anything shady over the years.
No scandals. Zero. Well, up until today, well, a couple weeks ago, we thought that was the Foo Fighters.
Right?
The Foo Fighters were like the last bastion of rock and roll that never got into anything shady.
And I'm not trying to defend anyone, but I mean, if we stopped playing any artist who did anything morally wrong, I don't think we'd have any music to play for you guys.
Dude, I mean, you look at the different lines, right? We play, and not just us, radio stations across the country, people have their playlists full of artists that committed actual crimes. They still get played. Then you go down to the moral level. There are people who've done way worse than cheat on their wife. And again, no excuse, Dave Grohl sucks for what he did. Still play those songs.
Dave Grohl is like a 2-minute minor compared to some of the things Steven Tyler has in his book. The Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Motley Crue. Like,
and these are stuff that we found out about.
there's stuff that they told you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
There's stuff that some of these bands have done that we don't even know. And we're going to say we're shutting down the Foo Fighters? Come on.
I feel like the only person that can really be like that is anyone that's close to his wife or his kids.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Wife, kids, 100%. If they're in the room and they go, turn this off, you go, oh yeah, no, sorry, that's my bad. You turn it off.
Although, it would suck to be very close to Dave Grohl's wife and you're like, Foo Fighters slap, though.
Imagine Dave Grohl's wife is in the room and you're like, oh my God, I am so heartbroken for everything that you're dealing with, everything that you're going through. It's so awful that he did that, but like, I'm not going to stop listening to Learn to Fly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not going to stop. I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to stop.
I'm sorry that someone got the best of you, but I'm still going to listen to the Foo Fighters. I don't know, 762-555. Anyone else agree with this?
Well, hey, lots of people agree with him. He said so himself.
So yeah, think about that.
Think about that.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Not much of a soccer fan or football fan.
Footy.
But one thing I will say is I love the chants that they have, especially out in the UK there. Tom Brady, he purchased a soccer team, New Birmingham City, and he was playing in, his team was playing in Wrexham, and he walked onto the field, and all the fans started chanting this at him. I know it's kind of muffled, but they're saying, who the...
3825.
Are you? And then Brady gives him a little wave. But it's not even just that. It's like they always have chants at these soccer matches.
And it's the thing is, like, because a lot of teams will have, like, a fight song or, like, a motto or something that everybody gets behind. But that's on, like, T-shirts, posters, jerseys.
They attack people like they did Tom Brady. They'll attack players all the time.
And it's thousands of people who just somehow all know the words instinctively. It's crazy.
And the thing that sucks is in North America, all we have is like go insert sports team, go, or let's go sports team. Maybe a boo here and there if a player injured someone. Like,
honestly, even when you watch pro wrestling, and I know we're talking about sports, but in pro wrestling, they have like kind of chants. Mm-hmm. But anytime those shows go over to like the UK or European soccer countries, the stuff the fans come up with about the wrestlers is just, it's a whole different level over there.
They're so much more passionate about things, I feel like.
Yeah, maybe that is it. Maybe they just care more than we do.
Yeah.
Or at least they're care to be more creative than we do.
The most that you can hear at a Leafs game is the two dinguses from finance sitting in front of you talking about their portfolios or something,
Right. Now imagine if you were at a Leafs game and all of a sudden some sort of sing-song broke out about Austin Matthews' mustache.
Right?
That would be amazing.
The only time that you ever really hear chants out here is when people go on strike. Right?
That's true.
And I mean, God forbid you actually did start chanting at a game. People are so uptight that you might get kicked out.
Dude, I mean, you get dirty looks for trying to start the wave, and that's a silent activity. Never mind starting a sing-song.
And let's get real. Nobody likes the guy that's starting the wave. It's always awkward when you're sitting behind him and he's like, you, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of like one of those things. It's a peer pressure thing. I mean, and if you're the guy that started the wave, it's like the greatest feeling for like 5 minutes and then it's over.
Dude, you'll tell your kids about it. This one time at the Garden. You know what? I don't like being in the section of the guy who starts the wave, but I like being across the arena from him. I like watching the wave come around, and then when it gets here, whoa!
It sucks when he makes eye contact with you and you're like, don't make me do this, man.
Please don't, sir.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
There's a story out of Ohio of an 8-year-old girl. On a Sunday morning, police were notified that this kid had gone missing. The parents were looking feverishly, could not find their child anywhere. So police started taking a look, trying to find missing persons report. At the same time, the same police department started getting calls from concerned citizens that it looked like a child was behind the wheel of a vehicle driving through the downtown core.
The kids steal mom and dad's car?
Stole mom and dad's car and went on a 10-mile drive, about 20 to 25 minutes, according to Google Maps, from the home to a Target downtown. Target shopping store.
Were they trying to buy toys? Or?
Just wanted to go to the store, and apparently the parents had said, no, we're not going to do that. And so took it upon themselves to be like, all right, fine. If you don't want to take me, I'll go by myself.
It's also pretty damn impressive that the kid was able to drive, to be honest with you.
Honestly, no accidents. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was harmed. No scrapes. The kid did cop to, quote, I struck a mailbox during the drive. So somewhere along the way, someone lost a mailbox. Other than that, she perfectly navigated, or at least safely navigated, from point A to point B.
That's impressive, man.
Honestly.
Kid's got some ultimate bragging rights going back to school on
100%.
Monday.
This kid's going to hit, 16? Start going for their driver's license and be like, I've been doing this for 8 years already.
That kid's already doing that at 8 years old. That kid's going to be trouble.
Fast and or furious.
Yeah.
And it's so perfect for an 8-year-old, too, to be like, because I feel like for the average person, obviously Target, an American store, but if you thought like Walmart here in Canada.
I mean, I would have went to Toys R Us as a kid.
Toys R Us makes a lot of sense. Anywhere where there's a lot of toys.
Ooh, I know what I would have done. I would have went to McDonald's for sure. Tried to get some food and then hit up the play place because my mom never let me go go in the McDonald's play place.
See, I wasn't a play place kid, but I loved KFC chicken. I would have 100% tried to maneuver my parents' car to a KFC to try and get something. Or when I was this age, I lived in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and the mall had this amazing arcade. I still remember it vividly with the old 4-player Simpsons arcade machine right at the front door. I totally would have gone to the mall to try and go to the arcade.
I'm just trying to figure out, how did the kid even see over the steering wheel? Are they sitting on the phone book? Or?
But that's the problem. You sit on the phone book, now how do the legs get down to the pedals?
Yeah.
They do not go into detail on all of this, but somehow this 8-year-old managed to work the car, operate the vehicle, and decided to go on a toy run. No word on what the kid thought would happen when they got to the target, though.
Imagine driving and looking to your left or your right and just seeing like a little guy or gal in the car.
Little kid sitting there with like a sucker hanging out of their mouth. Hey, how you doing? Give him the wave. I feel like, what do you do in that situation? Do you try and like block the kid off? Do you follow the kid and try and get onto the phone? Or do you just go about your like, well, that's happening?
I mean, I feel like the older you get, everyone looks like they're like 8 years old anyways.
You know what? That's actually really true.
The Brock and Dobby Podcast.
Jason's certainly not the only person to text in and say that if they could have stolen their parents' car and driven anywhere, they would have gone right to Canada's Wonderland.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like a lot of kids thought a lot more of places like Canada's Wonderland. I definitely would have thought about driving to Disneyland. Because when you were a kid, everything felt like it was just a quick car ride away.
Yeah.
Like a car felt like you could literally go anywhere in the world when you were like 8 years old. And then you were just like, yeah, I'll just drive to Disneyland. That'll be what, a couple hours? No big deal.
Well, when you're a kid, there's a lot of stuff you say you're going to do when you're older. And then when you become an adult, you're like, oh, it's not as fun as I thought.
We got this one text here that said that it's probably not too far. I was a small kid back then. And I guess that's the thing, too, is like, it really does depend on when you would have been old enough to, as you mentioned, see over the dashboard before you could drive anywhere. Do you remember how old you were when you first drove?
The first time I ever drove a vehicle, I was probably 14, but the first time I ever got in a car with like one of my friends was I was sleeping over at my buddy's house when he was 12, and he was like, do you want to go for a drive? And then we went for a little joyride around the block.
Did you guys get caught?
No.
Wow.
No, actually, we were good, yeah.
Those stories almost always end with, and then we came home and the mom was waiting at the door.
The thrill of it, dude.
Oh, I can imagine.
And then it was the kind of thing, like every time we slept over at this guy's house, we were like, we're going to take a little drive.
Would you do? You did it more than once?
We did it way more than once.
Damn,
yeah, that was a I mean, but it's also like in different countries, to get your license and stuff is completely different, right? Or if you're a farm kid, you most definitely drove a vehicle like when you were probably 10 years old or something.
Right. It depends a lot on like what your parents did, sort of like the area. Like even growing up in the Northwest Territories, my mom worked at an airport, so I can remember being like 7 years old, sitting on her lap, steering the truck as we're driving on the runway where a plane would not be coming for hours yet.
I'm sure there's some people that taught their kids how to drive just to get them home from the bar, you know? That's probably a thing.
All right, you wait by the phone, and if Dad gives you a call, you take the truck keys and you come get me.
The Brock and Dobby Podcast.
The Brock and Dobby Podcast.
Ed's word of the day.
Let's see what he's got.
Good morning. Yeah, today's word is, who's this? Yep, who's this? WHOOSIS. Who's this? And it means, someone or something that the name is not known. So, yeah, that's kind of county. Who's this? Except when it's something, we say, what's this? Anyways, that's about it. Have a great one. Cheers.
Is this a real word?
Can't be. Also, WHOOSIS, that's not who's this, that's who's this.
That's just basically like when you're drunk and you're like, who's this guy?
Yeah, that's like saying tomorrow's word of the day is, what are you at?
That's a word.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect your
Show
people.
some respect to the Newfoundlanders out there. That is a word. Who's this?
Who's this? I also don't agree with the way, because he said if it's not a person, if it's a thing, then he goes, it's what's this? No. You don't pronounce that T. What's this?
What's this?
What's that? Where is this?
Yeah. This is just like drunk terminology is all it is. You
The
know?
old Milwaukee hit hard this morning.
Who's this? Who's this? Who's this? Use it wherever you can after like 3 or 4 Michelob Ultras.
Sober up.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.
The Brock and Dalby podcast is brought to you by badshop.ca, the Brock and Dalby merch store. With all proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society.